Hello, I'm Dave Vandevenny, and I'd like to talk to you today about the 45-year plan. This graph here is taken from the data that's found in the United States Department of Labor and Statistics, and it's plotted by every person that has a Social Security number. Now these are all averages. There's going to be some exceptions, I'm sure, but these are averages, and this is how most 95% of the people who trade time for money, going to work, getting a job, working for somebody else, getting a paycheck at the end of the week for the time you put in, this is how their work life is going to graph out. It says here between 18 and 21, we're going to go out and get our first job. And during this time, we're going to start to get 5 to 10% raises through this area here, where we're starting to ramp up to what we're finally going to end up making for the rest of our lives. And during this time, some people get the idea that 5 or 10% is going to keep happening all along the way, and you're going to start earning more and more money. And so that's why they call these the arrogant years. We don't look into the future that much, and this can happen. But what happens here is we start buying stuff. We start buying the things we couldn't afford before we started working. Maybe we might go into debt to buy a car. We might go into debt to buy a boat or a motorcycle, or maybe we go into debt to buy some clothes, or maybe we go into debt to buy something else that we've always desired to have but never had the money to get. But now that we're earning our own money, we can do this. Well, what happens is you finally meet somebody you care about. You want to spend the rest of your life with them, and so you fall in love and you get married. Of course, marriage carries with it a little bit of an expense bubble. Not everybody can just pay cash for it, so guess what happens? It goes on the credit card, and so that you want to get a house to raise your family, so you go into debt for a house, and all of a sudden children start coming along, and you have the expense of children, and all the things that go with them. They are a blessing, but they can be very costly. I saw a figure one time about how much it costs. It escapes me, but it is pretty expensive raising a child these days. They are a blessing again, but it does cost money. And so what happens at 30 to 32, the line starts to go flat, and that means you're going to start getting only 0 to 3% raises. You hit the top pay scale, and then you get 0 to 3% raises. Some people, they look at their contract, they can look at their wage, what they're going to get, and they can see exactly what's going to happen when they hit this flat line, and it's not going to go up much, except for maybe a few adjustments for inflation, to 0 to 3% raises. And you know, everything would be cool if everything stayed the same, if inflation stayed 0%, and we just kept on going, we would be pretty good. But what happens is 7% average inflation chugs along regardless of what kind of raises or concessions are being asked for. That means that every 5 years prices are going to double. Then we happily move along this track to retirement, 65 to 75. Most people that are towards the end of their careers are going to be able to retire at 65. Folks just starting, more likely 75. The government's going to keep pushing up how late you get your Social Security. And so you retire to 1/2 to 1/3 of your income. Even if it's just 2/3, which I've seen some people, it gets painful. I was talking to a fellow who retired to 2/3 of his income. You know what he's got to do after retired? He's going to have to rehire. He's going to have to go find another job that doesn't pay him as much as the old one, because if he earns too much, he will start to lose his pension. So he's got to be very careful. And so the problem here is when you retire, there's a 3-legged stool that you can stand on if all 3 legs that you sit on, if all 3 legs are there. That's pension, Social Security, and a 401k or savings. Most people don't have a savings. Pensions are going away, and how do we know if Social Security is going to be there when we get there? So this is not a very happy thought. But what I'd like to do is help you find a way to get your income to do this. It starts out slow, but then all of a sudden, by applying the principles of success and finding a business that'll take you there, you will start here and you start going, and all of a sudden, exponentially, that thing just takes off. Now this here is the best guard against this thing right here, 7% inflation. I hope that you keep going and you find this graph in your life. Thank you for watching this video, and I wish you the best of success.